So I want to talk about the masculine and feminine in movement, particularly in the frame of Pilates, just because I think it does such a good job of working with these concepts, and because Pilates is really working from the pelvis. It's working from the core, and the core is from the pelvic floor to the diaphragm and this whole area. And so Pilates moves energy up the spine using the engagement of the body, a lot like tantric principles. And so this is like the Tantra of Pilates. And so if we start at the base, well, let's start with the general concept. General concept, masculine, for me, is the form. It's like the direction and the structure. So the masculine is the way my fingers are reaching, the way the shoulder plugs in, the space between the fingers, the length of that line, the intentions that set that up, and intentions both in terms of choice and also literally what's in tension, right? It's in tension. I'm reaching out, and then I widen the shoulders and the elbows reach, and it's tension in the body. It uses the tensional structure of the connective tissues to make those things happen. So, if we look at like a typical kind of Pilates situation here, reaching through the legs, reaching through the arms, then the sense from the pelvic floor, there's lengthening through the spine, and it engages up and over. And so there's all this tension being used into the space. It's very intentional. And it takes quite a bit of engagement. So that's the masculine side of it for me. The feminine side of it to me is the allowing of the experience that's created. So like literally I'm like penetrating into space, right? It's this masculine penetrative, like into the space, engaging into the space. And then there's receiving that experience through the body. So as my foot's reaching that way, my experience comes back towards my center. The experience is lived. It's not just the direction towards my center. That's actually still kind of a masculine aspect. It's the feeling of it, the joy of it, the all that comes up in being moved for the body. With my will, I choose to go into this space. Particularly like Pilates, right? It's very, it's an exercise system. It's not really functional. Like it doesn't get dinner made, but it trains the body, and then I can receive that training. So I get to tune in and feel it. And that's the reason to do it. It's not just to like strengthen my back or something, which is great, but it's also because there's like a joy in doing that. There's a feeling of the strengthening. There's an interaction that's happening between the body and the world, right? That's this tantric piece. It's all interaction, right? Between these different energies, the masculine and the feminine. Whatever your polarities are, the real tantric principle, I think, is just being with the interaction. And so as there's this movement, there's the feeling it. And that's where the play is. And that's where the learning is too, right? If I don't feel it, my body's not really gonna shift in its ability to interact with the world. It's an educational principle. It's an experiential principle. It's a kind of wisdom that comes by doing these sorts of movements. So we have to receive that. Well, we have the opportunity to receive that. And so let's say I like push down on the floor, reach my knees, and then there's this direction that way, and then I can feel it, like where the back of my heart is, and I can soften that and allow the sensation. And imagery builds, like I get the sense of water, the sense of sand, or something, like a vine growing through my abdomen as I'm working with the movement. And that's what makes it sensual, right? The senses. We can bring that into the motion. So that's the feminine aspect. The masculine is the direction of the knees, the pushing into the feet, the technique of it in that sense. That's the feminine aspect. For me, and these things aren't universal. You might disagree, it might be different for you. But playing with these polarities, how potent. So, masculine, I'll place the hands here. Feminine, I'll drop into the experience of my hands. They're both putting them there and receiving it, and then I'm getting kind of like a waving in my spine that wants to respond. So it becomes organic in that sense. It's not robotic. It becomes organic when the two come together. And anything more to say about that? So much, but that might be a good place. So as you're moving, as you play with it, use direction. I'm going to reach there. I'm going to push down here. All these kinds of aspects of the structure. I'm going to make this shape. And then feeling into it. And it may organically go somewhere you don't expect because of that openness that happens by receiving the movement, by feeling it. Whoa. For me, a lot of the spinal waves and things come from that place. You can work on the technicality of the spinal wave and try to get it to go through every place, but the control of it will probably prevent the aspect of it that's really about energy and reflex and letting it happen. I worked with a chiropractor for a while who was like, wait, you can try to do spinal waves? Because they were used to this idea that they were always coming from natural reflex. And I love that sense. They come from inside the body, and they're very healing and very powerful, and they're natural to the spine. And so in network spinal analysis, they'll like activate the waves for you. I think we can also do it with our movement when we're working with this like feminine aspect of feeling it and letting the body's own intelligence like just come up. We use the structure to get there, the masculine and the feminine. I hope that makes some sense. Super curious your thoughts on it and your responses to this and experiences. Thanks so much.